listening to The Bob Duco Show. We're going to way through this news hour, news and politics. Reports are that Donald Trump is irritated with Kellyanne Conway. And I have to say, you can kind of understand that too, but I can understand where she's coming from. Here's what's happening here. Kellyanne Conway, as you know, she headed up Donald Trump's successful presidential election campaign. He put her in charge of the whole thing. And this is the first time ever that a woman has successfully headed a successful presidential campaign. And it happened to be a Republican, go figure. So Kellyanne Conway, I think, has just done a remarkable job for Donald Trump, right? However, Kellyanne Conway was originally on the Ted Cruz team. And when Ted Cruz bowed out of the race, she then went over to the Trump camp. So Kellyanne Conway, Donald Trump wasn't her first choice, of course, but she's done a remarkable job for him. Well, now that Trump is president-elect and he's been naming people to his various positions, as you folks know, he, yes, met with Ted Cruz about possibly being Attorney General. So he's been reaching out to his political enemies as well as his political friends. But one of his political enemies that he's reached out to is Mitt Romney. And he's interviewed Mitt Romney for the Secretary of State job. Now, does that mean Mitt Romney's going to get the job? No. But he's reached out to him, he's talked with him, and some insiders are suggesting that Mitt Romney is so far the top choice to become Secretary of State. Now, this would be a remarkable decision on Donald Trump's part, and here's why. Because Mitt Romney has been a huge anti-Trumper, refusing to endorse Donald Trump all the way up to the election. Even to this day, Mitt Romney won't say whether he voted for Donald Trump or not. So he's been a never-Trumper right up to the end, and he's attacked Donald Trump very viciously. I mean, Donald Trump has attacked him too. But so that's why it's so shocking to a lot of people that he would even consider Mitt Romney for such a high-ranking position as Secretary of State. But as I've said all along, folks, whether you agree or disagree with his reaching out to Mitt Romney, at a minimum, we all have to agree that Donald Trump has, in fact, been showing the kind of temperament that he's been accused of not having. He's been accused of being all about an emotional crybaby who can't control his own emotions, right? This is what we've heard about him. Well, this is proving exactly the opposite, because he takes the people who were his biggest enemies, who he should hold a grudge against, and rather than holding a grudge, he says, hey, I want to extend a hand of friendship to you and talk with you about maybe being Secretary of State even, or Attorney General, or any of that kind of stuff. So you don't have to agree with his considering Mitt Romney, but you have to agree that he is at least showing the discipline and the restraint and the temperament that so many people said that he didn't have. Well, anyway, which brings us to Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne Conway desperately does not want Donald Trump to name Mitt Romney to be Secretary of State. And she, in a little bit of a surprising move, has actually gone public with this. She's gone public and has been doing interviews telling the media, hey, Donald Trump's base is really upset and really furious about the idea of him considering Mitt Romney. What she's doing basically is she's using the media to try to pressure Donald Trump into changing his mind about Mitt Romney. She's hoping that Donald Trump will say, oh, this will be too much of a nightmare for me, so I'm just, let me pass on Mitt Romney. Let me find somebody that my base won't be so upset with. But she's been going to the media to do this, kind of going behind Donald Trump's back. As Fox News reports, quote, top advisor Kellyanne Conway on Sunday made a repeated public case against deciding on Mitt Romney. Conway says she'll support whomever Trump picks, but continues to argue that grassroots supporters who backed his victory will feel let down if Romney's the one that's selected. Conway said on NBC's Meet the Press, quote, people feel betrayed to think that Romney, who went out of his way to question the character and the intellect and the integrity of Donald Trump, would be given the most significant cabinet post of all. She also said that while she will respect whatever decision he makes, she said that the response from the grassroots supporters of Donald Trump has been, her words, quote, breathtaking. So she basically is going to the media, going to the cameras, and she's talking to Donald Trump, but she's doing it via the media to say, hey, Donald Trump, pay attention to this, because I'm telling America right now that the grassroots supporters of you will be furious with you if you make Mitt Romney Secretary of State. Now what's going to be interesting to see is how Trump handles her. Because I got to tell you, folks, your average president-elect would probably fire somebody like Kellyanne Conway for doing this. I mean, let's face it, this is a fireable offense. It really is, and especially for somebody like Donald Trump. So will he fire her? I think that's a possibility. But can I tell you what else I think is a possibility? That Donald Trump may still go ahead and keep her on board and give her authority and power and a powerful advisor role. See, folks, at a minimum, we got to admit that Donald Trump doesn't surround himself with a bunch of ego-stroking yes men, does he? He really doesn't do that. If he surrounded himself with ego-stroking yes men, he wouldn't have somebody like Kellyanne Conway who feels the freedom to go out there in the media and say this kind of stuff. He wouldn't be inviting Ted Cruz and Mitt Romney to maybe join his administration. He wouldn't be doing that, would he? But instead, Trump chooses to surround himself with ego-challenging, strong people willing to tell him he's wrong. And that's really what he's surrounding himself with people who are saying, Donald Trump, you're wrong. And they're even going on television and saying, Donald Trump is wrong. So I am curious to see how Trump handles Kellyanne Conway at this point. Anyway, a little bit more news and politics. We'll wind down the rest of it next here on the Bob Duco Show.